friends, I thought that I would put together a video just of how to throw a beginning bowl on the wheel. When you start off, you want something that can fit in your hands easily. So it's going to be like orange size or maybe grapefruit size, depending on how big your hands are. So when I start off, I want to make sure that my clay is as close to center as I can get. So I put this as close to center as I can. So it's going like half speed right now. It's not going super fast. All I'm trying to do right now is get my clay to center. So I'm going to start hitting it with both hands, because clay, you want even pressure on both sides the whole time you're doing things. So I'm going to start off, I'm going to kind of have my hands angled like this, because I want my clay to start going down and towards the center. So it's going to start creating kind of a cone shape. So that's the shape my hands are going to make, is the cone I want it to become. So I just start hitting it from each side. That starts putting it closer to center. And that's the same thing you're going to do as we get farther in. So then when you really start throwing, the first thing you're going to do is you want to get as close to the wheel as you can. Your legs are going to be straddling it. If you're smaller, you can take part of the pan off so that you can get closer to the wheel. The reason you want to get close to the wheel is you want to use as much of your body to center the clay as you can, instead of just using muscle. So I want to, when I'm doing this, think about which direction the clay is going. So if the clay is going this way, it's coming towards me over here. I probably should set up a separate camera at some point, but it's coming towards my hand. So I'm going to brace my elbow on my hip so that I don't just have to use muscle to try to get it to the center. I'm using my whole body that's not moving anywhere to just anchor that arm in place so that that clay hits it and comes, it's coming right there. So it comes towards me. So as it comes towards me, I'm just pressuring it to go towards that center part. So let me show you. So when you're centering, after you've gotten it hit, you want to get both hands wet, make sure your clay is wet. And I'm going to do that same kind of shape where I want to make it come into that cone shape. So I'm going at an angle. So if I'm just doing it with my muscles, I'm going to be trying to do it, and you see like my hands are moving. I just got my clay off. So my hands start moving more if I'm just using muscle. If I use my hip, I'll show you this again real fast. So if I'm just using my muscle, see how much my hands are moving? It's gonna be really hard to center. But, again, if your hands start sticking, just put more water on. If I stick my elbow in here, and it's coming just towards the heel of my hand right there, my arm, that bone, is gonna help keep it in place, so you don't have to use as much muscle. It's moving, but hands are always touching. These fingers, especially like right here are my fingers, like where that joint comes, I'm gonna press with that spot towards the heel of my hand. And that's gonna press towards the heel of my hand, and I'm going up at a cone. And if you notice, I'm always doing things slowly. I'm not trying to rush things, but it's an even amount the whole way up. So I'm not just going like this really fast. I'm not just focusing only at the bottom, because I'm gonna get a big divot in the bottom, and this part's gonna be fatter. I want it to be a cone, so I want that to be even the whole way up. So I start at the bottom. I'm not pushing super hard at the bottom. And then both hands come up at the same time. I want them to touch if I can. And they just come up at the same time, nice and slow. And I just do that a few times to cone. So I'm gonna push a little bit more this time. So if you can see, my thumb is always touching, right there. And I just come up evenly. You never freak out with clay. If you freak out, it freaks out. See, this is really tall right now, and it can go kind of crazy pretty easy. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use this part of my thumb. I'm gonna push down with it. This hand is just gonna hang out here. The clay is gonna kind of form to that part of my hand as I push down. So you don't need to squeeze. My fingers are really just hanging out. So I'll just keep my fingers out here. But if you watch, right there kind of keeps that clay going towards the center instead of going crazy. Notice that my arm is still anchored, so it's helping it not move as much. So I'm just pressing straight down. Get a little more water because my fingers are starting to stick. And really, my fingers are just hanging out, forming it so it stays centered as I push that clay down. So I don't need to push it down all the way. I just kind of want it to be more stable, because you want to cone up 3 times. So I'm going to do the same thing I just did 3 times. So I push back down, and then we're going to cone up again. So remember, anchor in. The heel of my hand is what touches right here. These fingers with this part of the finger pushes towards the heel of my hand. So I'm going to do this one a little quicker, okay? Just so you can see it happen. Okay. I'm gonna clean up around the edges real fast. Okay. Then the next part we're gonna do is called opening. So it's pretty self-explanatory. We're gonna open the clay. To open the clay, you want to use this flat part of your hand. I'm kind of pushing where the pinky meets my palm, okay, right there. And you're gonna press straight down in the middle of the clay. As I do that, I want my hand touching again. Both hands are always touching. So that's gonna push down. This finger is just hanging out so that you get a flat side, a flat top, flat side. So you can always use your finger, just kind of push that down there too, okay? Flat top, flat sides. It's close enough, it's good. Okay, and again, at center, you can tell because my fingers aren't moving when I put my fingers on my clay. It's gonna take longer for you. I have lots of practice, so keep on trying. Remember, you're the boss, and you tell the clay who's boss. Once you have it centered, you've got a flat top, flat sides. You wanna come in and you're gonna find the center of the clay to create your hole. To do that, again, you want your hands touching, but you're gonna anchor your arm on the other side. So hands are touching. You're gonna bring your sponge in, and you can feel it kind of pulling on it. Once you get to the center, it should stop pulling on it because it's all staying in that middle spot. So once you know you're there, you push straight down with your finger. You can do it with 2 fingers. I push down until I don't know where I'm at. So maybe you think, I might be close to the bottom. I don't want a hole in it. That's fine. So you just have a hole, head down there. Then you're gonna have your finger fall to the side. You're kind of gonna push with this part of your hand. You're gonna create a funnel shape. So wherever you push, you're gonna move that clay out of your way. So straight up and down, and then it falls straight to the side, towards your other hand. This hand is putting some pressure on, but not a lot. It's just kind of holding stuff in place, and it's straight up and down, okay? And then I just slowly come up, slow, 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 and release. And then you see this top part looks a little funky. So you just take your sponge. Sometimes you can, it doesn't need to be super wet at this point. I usually get water in it and wring all the water out I can. And then just use the sponge and slowly press this top part down towards the clay. It's called compressing it. It'll help you out in the long run. Whenever you go up, you want to push down a little bit to compress that clay. Okay, now I want to see how close I am to, this is called a bat. I want to see how close I am to the bottom where it goes to the bat. So you take your needle tool, again, it's the one that has a needle looking thing at the bottom, at the top, the tip. You put it straight down in the clay, and then you're going to take your finger and touch where that clay is at the bottom. And you're going to hold onto your needle tool, keep your finger there, and pull it out. So then I can see I have that much left at the bottom. I want about a 1/4 inch left, 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch, depending on what you're making. So 1/4 inch, I want about that much left. So I need to go a little bit deeper, okay? So you do the same thing where I just push down, straight down in the middle, and then I slowly pull my hand up and out because I'm creating a funnel shape. When I get to the top, I want to compress that clay back down. So you can see I've got like a funnel sort of shape in there. Gotta check how deep it is again. So straight up and down. You don't have to let go of it, but I am just to show you. Straight up and down. It's about that deep. So that's about what I want. It's about a 1/4 inch. So then I want to think about how to create the inside of a bowl. Everything with pottery, you start with the bottom, then you work your way up, and you worry about the top, the very last, okay? So when I create a bowl, I want to think about the shape of the inside of the bowl. So I'm gonna think, okay, down, I wanna go over to the side and scoop up, right? You don't want little divots in there that stuff can get stuck in. You wanna have a smooth swipe up. So that's exactly what I'm going to make. So that's what motions I'm gonna use to create my bowl. So again, I have my sponge just barely wet. There's no water. When I squeeze it, there's nothing much coming out, okay? One hand's gonna be outside, they're touching. I'm anchoring on this hip, or at least my leg, so I don't want it to move very much. This hand, while I'm just creating that shape, it's just gonna kind of hang out here. It's gonna put a little pressure, but not a whole lot, okay? So I'm gonna do that swipe, so the shape of the bowl, so swipe over and up. So it should be a smooth curve. So, oh, I'm pushing over to the side and then I'm slowly coming up. I don't have to do all of it at one time. I don't want to move the clay all at one time, but I went up, so I'm going to compress back down. I'm just going to do it again. So push over, and you can use some force from the inside, and then slowly come up and compress it down. So you do that over and over. So I want a wide base in my bottom of the bowl, because usually you don't want like almost pointy bottoms of bowls. You want to make sure that you've got a wide base on the bowl. If you start feeling something feel funny, just keep your hand there. Let it rotate, 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 and slowly come off of it, and it should fix itself usually. I'm compressing back down. So I'm just gonna do that a couple times, okay? I'll speed up right here so you can see it faster. So when you're doing this, your hands are always touching. You want them to kind of have even pressure at this point, because you can tell like that bottom is getting a little thinner. So I want to make sure I have even pressure on both sides and my hands are coming up at the same time. So I know they're coming up at the same time by making sure they're touching. And it's kind of pushing with an even pressure, pushing it almost towards the middle at this point. I kind of want bowls to go straight up and down to start with. And then after I've gotten all the clay out of the way, I can create more of that shape on the outside. But again, we're only focusing on the inside right now. And so the goal is not just to get a perfect shape on the outside. Right now, it's just to create that shape on the inside. Then we're gonna do what's called pulling a wall. So to pull a wall, I wanna use a wet sponge and I'm gonna press that clay. I'm gonna make a little ledge underneath. And that little ledge right here is so that my fingers can get underneath that. It's gonna pull that clay up. So I'm gonna do the same motion, okay? Same motion, same pressure, but I've got clay that's gonna come up with it. So you wanna make sure you keep that even pressure so that clay pushes up and creates a taller wall, okay? It's called pulling a wall. So I'm doing the same motion with the inside hand, so it's swooping over and then up. This hand goes underneath this clay. When it comes up, it's gonna have an even pressure or push towards the middle, okay? So over, then both come up because they're touching. They can come up at the same time. The outside hand is pushing towards the middle. Do you see it's getting taller there? There you go. So I'm just gonna keep on pulling that wall, okay? As you pull the walls, you'll notice it'll start going out a little bit, and that's okay. That means that your clay is thinning out. It means that your shape is coming and becoming more defined. That's fine. But you wanna make sure you get as much clay pulled for the walls. Your goal is to have 1/4 inch thick walls, so they should be about that thick. As your walls get thinner, you wanna slow down your wheel a little bit. So I'm gonna slow it down here. So I'm starting to shape my walls here, okay? So I'm seeing that the walls are getting thinner. I don't want them to go all the way thin yet. I don't want them the full 1/4 inch yet. If I'm just pushing out, it's stretching that clay out so it gets thinner and thinner as it goes towards the outside. So then I'm gonna use a rib and I'm gonna create that curve. So I kind of use this curve and I go from top all the way to the bottom and just keep that curve just like we have been, but I'm just gonna push from the inside to the outside. So again, my hands are touching to keep them all even keel and not freaking out. So it's not quite centered right now, but I've noticed that I've got a little bit of a wobble on the top, so I'm gonna cut it off. Stick your finger straight down. As it's spinning, you just come straight up towards you, and it creates a swirl on the bottom.